Hello, I'm Katie Lloyd-Nunn. I'm the Programme Manager at Hawkwood College, and I'm here to talk with Andrew Harvey, who is internationally known as a mystical scholar, translator of Rumi, a poet, a teacher, and a passionate maker of sacred activism.
Thank you. That sounds fairly scary.
It's scary, isn't it? Yeah. So Andrew, just briefly, would you like to, for our friends...
And I love Hawkwood. It's my favourite centre in England, and I'm so delighted to return again and again and to participate in the holy calm of Hawkwood that has sheltered so many great teachers and so much great teaching, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe the world is going through a massive death and birth crisis. The death must be obvious to all of you listening and watching. The death is happening on every level, but it's very important to realize too that a great birth is also taking place, partly through this death. And that great birth, I think, is the birth of an embodied divine consciousness on the earth that expresses itself in sacred action that protects and nourishes and sustains and establishes justice on every level and in every realm for all sentient beings. And that birthing force, the birthing force of a new humanity, is what I have called sacred activism in my book, The Hope, that launched the global movement of sacred activism. So sacred activism really has two definitions. The first definition is that if you combine and fuse together the peace and power and stamina and passion of an authentic spiritual mystical consciousness with clear, wise, focused, urgent, radical action, what is born through that fusion is a holy force, a non-violent, holy, transformative force that over time can change seemingly impossible situations. And we've seen this holy force work in India under Gandhi. We've seen it work through Martin Luther King. We've seen it work through Mandela. We've seen it work through the Dalai Lama. We've seen it work in certain ways through Aung San Suu Kyi and through Jane Goodall. We know that when people combine the deepest spirituality with compassionate action, something amazing is born in them to inspire others to change very difficult problems into tremendous opportunities. So at this moment when we're facing this huge crisis, sacred activism is the way through. The other definition is a bit more esoteric but very powerful and very important. And it came to me from a dream, which was really a dream of two rivers of fire going towards the horizon and meeting at the horizon in a massive explosion. It looked like a nuclear explosion, but in fact it was an explosion of a new power. And what I heard in that dream was, when the river of the passion of the mystic for God meets the river of the passion of the activist for justice, when those two passions meet, what is born is a vast new force of electric, divine human power that can, even at this very late moment in our history, change everything. And it's this, I believe, that Rumi means when he says in one of his great poems, "Let divine passion triumph and rebirth you in yourself." And it's this that Teilhard de Chardin is referring to when he says that someday, after we have discovered the tides and gravity, we shall harness the energies of love, and for the second time in the history of humanity, man will have discovered fire. This new fire, this second fire, is the fire of sacred activism. And what's going to happen on the earth, if the earth is going to be saved, and I believe it will be, if humanity is going to save itself and therefore save a great deal of nature from what it can do to nature, what's going to happen is that the crisis is going to engender such desperation that this force will be able to be born in millions of people. A love force that goes beyond religion, goes beyond concept, goes beyond dogma, but is born in the very guts of people and expresses itself in a passion for justice and harmony and balance on every level. This is the great hope, and this is what I've dedicated my life to.
That's fantastic, and thank you so much. In your talk last night, you spoke about finding our passion and then knowing what is our best offer. Like, are we a good organiser?
Right.
Are we an artist?
Right.
And we're very excited.
Exactly, because everybody's got a particular gift. So the key is to wake up to the agony, have your heart broken, and then really dedicate yourself to doing something about what breaks your heart, bringing in your own unique gift, marrying your heartbreak to your unique gift.
And David White says it very well. He says, start close in. So start where you can do it already, but then do it with your cause.
Right.
So I love that. And
start close in, but light a Bunsen burner of divine passion under yourself.
Yes, exactly. So at Hawkwood, we've got our artist residency programme well in place now.
That's wonderful.
And we've been funded by the Reckitt Arts Trust. And we've noticed that many of the artists coming, which could be young men from council estates in London or an artist from Japan, and many of them are bringing in social change. So
that's great.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
So combined with our Centre for Future Thinking concept and programme, we're beginning our new Change Maker residencies.
This is fantastic.
And we're starting a crowdfunder for this. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. I really think what you're doing is very important because remember the 60s, and you and I do remember the 60s. I remember a lot of the 60s. Look, what happened then was that many great artists, singers, composers, writers came together in this great conflagration of inspiration. And their art was deeply personal, but it was also public, it was also radical, it was also crying out for change on every level. That's why a huge movement that stopped the Vietnam War was born, that truly birthed civil rights in America. What we need now on the earth is a movement like that. We need all the singers, all the artists, all the writers that we can possibly find to be galvanized by the crisis, to pour out their gifts, to awaken the human soul, to awaken and inspire the human heart, and to give people the words, the imagery, the inspiration that is so desperately needed. Art plays an enormous part in the transformation of the human race. Look at the way in which so many millions of people now are reading Rumi with such passion. The greatest mystical poet in the world is coming back to us at this moment when we need him the most, and we need that passion that he represents so beautifully the most. So I'm so thrilled that you're doing this, because we need art to get out of its private little narcissistic chamber and start serving the birth of a new humanity. And if not now, when?
Exactly. Very good.
And I would love to come and participate in all of this ferment, and I hope that I'll have the chance to do it.
You're definitely doing that. And your new book.
My new book is something I wrote with my great friend Carolyn Baker, who is probably the most extraordinary writer on our crisis that I know. Carolyn Baker, do read her, especially her book, Sacred Demise. It's a very important book. And Carolyn and I wrote a short book about the crisis and about this terrible death that is also potentially a birth, called Savage Grace. And it's a very radical book, so we decided, instead of trying to get it published by publishers who seem to be increasingly idiotic at this moment and who probably want us to soften it all, we decided, what the hell, we're going to publish it ourselves. And it's had the most enormous impact. And we're so happy about it. Savage Grace. So if anything that I've said has excited you, please buy it. It's 95 pages, and it contains the essence of what Carolyn and I, as elders, as crazy sane elders, now believe to be taking place, and the kinds of ways in which we need to live to be able to thrive in chaos and really continue to try and birth the new world out of the ashes of the old.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Donnie.
And we look forward to welcoming Andrew Harvey back to Hawkwood in April next year, and in April and May the year after, in 2020. So
I will come with the spring.
He's here to stay.